Hi to everyone, this is Anton Roger with APC Data Analytics. Thanks for joining us today for a demo of our pricing tool. So we're going to go through an example of a house here in Charleston, South Carolina is the MLS we're working out of today. And we're going to just step through an example with everybody. But this is for those of you who are not currently APC users, this is the home page that you would have logged in as an agent. If you're a current user. So what we're going to do today is going to demonstrate to you the tools that we have. So you can add clients, whether it's a buyer or seller client up here. You can add specific properties. You're running analysis for a seller or buyer, investor, so you can add properties right here. But what we're going to spend our time on today is making a new chart. And any chart that you've previously run will show under My Charts. So when we run the new chart, we're going to come here and simply select this property value analysis. And at the end, we might go through an investment analysis real quick, but let's do a property value analysis to start. So this is analyzing a property for value, whether it's for a buyer or seller or investor. So what we're going to do today is we're going to start with our search criteria is over here on the left. Now each MLS, so you can see we're working in the Charleston Regional MLS, each MLS might be different from an aspect of which search criteria is included in that. So for the Charleston MLS, these are the search fields that are included. But when I come here, I can have two choices here. I can either select a property that I've saved under my property. So I can simply come here and choose a property. So let's choose 123 Main Street. So 123 Main Street, I've input under the property list and added square footage, some general information, and maybe a picture of the house and make a nice presentation. So I'm going to select from my list there. So we need to know the subject property. So we've selected the subject property here. Now we pick our search criteria. So our search criteria will be based off of picking the comps for relative comps to our subject property. So if I come here under category, we're going to do a residential analysis, not a rental analysis on this one. Depending on the MLS, some MLSs have access to the rental information, but for this one, we're just going to do a traditional sales price analysis. So here's our selection there, and then it's a single family detached home, so we'll select that instead of attached, which would be townhomes and condos in this MLS. So if I do a single family detached, year built, so year built might be relevant if you're in a historic area, maybe downtown Charleston, or if maybe you're dealing with a newer construction. For this example, I'm just going to leave this blank. So you do not have to include every search criteria to run the search. So this one I'm going to leave blank here. Subdivision. So this subdivision is, the name of it is Bell Hall. So what I'm going to do is select Bell Hall as the subdivision. And what the program does, it also populates any existing neighborhood with that name in the MLS. So let's choose Bell Hall here. We'll add it to our list. You can do multiple subdivisions if you need or want. So selected Bell Hall here. Price range, well, this is on the lower end of the neighborhood. So I'm just going to put, let's stay under 550,000. Square footage. Again, an important part of the program is that we analyze at each square foot the analysis, so you don't necessarily have to narrow into the exact square footage of the house. Our subject property is 1,850 square feet. But for this example, just to show you, I'm not even going to narrow down the square footage and show you how this works. So we'll leave it at that. Zip code. Zip code would be used if you wanted to do a full map search and you don't have a subdivision that the house is part of. But for this example, I will leave that blank as well. Date range. So in the date range, it defaults to 1 year. However, this neighborhood and this market, there's plenty of comps within the last 3 months. So I'm just going to go back 3 months. So we'll do April 2020. So let's do April 8th of 2020. So let's go back 3 months. So we're only doing 3 months of the search. So once you have your criteria selected, you simply come here, you hit search, and it's going to go to this MLS, which is updated hourly. So what happens is every hour, let's say a new listing hits the market at 9 o'clock. By 10 o'clock in the morning, it should show up in the system as an active listing, or one changes status from active to pending or pending to closed. It will update the status for that specific property. So what we're doing is, as the agent, your role is to select the criteria here on the left that is most relevant to the subject property that you're currently selecting or currently analyzing. So again, you don't have to include all these fields, just the ones that are relevant to the search criteria. We have data back up to 2 years. So you can go back up to 2 years, but we only did 3 months. And when you see in 3 months, we have 3 active, 4 pending, and 14 closed. We force at least 7 closed comps to do an analysis because there's a lot of analytical work happening in the background. So we have enough comps here to run this chart. But what I wanted to show you here is that if you knew, well, I know that these houses on this side of the main drive are more similar, you can simply draw a map around those houses. So if I draw a map, I can select just maybe this side of the road here and use those in the analysis. So now you can see I'm down to 2 active, 4 pending, 9 closed. But if you want to use all of them, you can simply just do the full analysis here. So once you have your comp selected based off our search criteria in the map, now you can generate the chart. So when I generate the chart, when I click here, what it's going to do is going to produce for me the analysis based off these comps that I've selected. So the 3 active, 4 pending, 14 closed, it's putting everything in a price versus square footage format. So what we're doing here, this blue house is the spec property. So this is the house that I had entered under my property list at 123 Main Street. So 123 Main Street, it's an 1,850 square foot house. And you can see on here, I imported the picture just, really for example purposes to show you, the product. So this is a picture that I imported and it shows you an estimated value. The blue curve here is the best fit of these sold comps. So what we're doing is the reds are the actives, the reds are the closed sales, yellows are the pendings, and the greens are the actives. So what I can do is I can hide the actives and the pendings. Let's focus on the sold comps. So the sold comps are how the analysis is happening. This blue house is subject property. This blue curve represents the average house at any square footage in this neighborhood. So basically this is a best fit of the sold comps depending on your square footage. These are pricing bands. So the pricing bands show that most of your homes are going to close within this first pricing band. So a majority of the homes are going to close in this dark blue band, and you can see this one's a little low, this one's slightly low, and this one's pretty high. So typically if I see, well, why is this one so much higher than the rest? When I come look at the house, what we've allowed the agent to do is all the pictures are uploaded within MLS. So any of the pictures that are provided are uploaded in here. So you can scroll through as an agent or show to your clients, well, look, they've completely renovated this house. This is why it's closing above that, typical band and line. So what you can determine as an agent is if this is not your typical house and it's not like the subject property, and you find that this is an outlier, you can simply come in here and you can delete it. So as soon as I delete it, what it's going to do is it's going to recalculate everything without that selected comp. So now you can see here's the analysis with the outlier removed. This is a more accurate, for this subject property, a more accurate comparison of the homes. So what we want to do is we populate the pending. So here's the 4 under contract. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's the 3 actives. So those are the 3 actives for sale. So you see a relative point of where that home is valued, with the upper band being superior homes, the lower band being inferior homes, but then most of them closing in or very near this first pricing band here. So this subject property that's 1,850 square feet, what we're doing is here's the market value range for that subject property. So it's saying for this neighborhood, an 1,850 square foot house, that's an average house, will close in this price range. But we know not every house is average, just from the data here. These are superior houses and inferior houses. So if I come down here, what we've given the agent the ability to do is rate the house for site, layout, condition, and quality. So when you first run the analysis, it's assuming it's an average house. So we haven't told it anything different. So an average house is a 3-star house. So what the agent needs to do is that, okay, well, the subject property I'm evaluating, let's say it's on a cul-de-sac and it has a nice big private wooded lot, you know, there's some positives to that specific property, well, you can rate it that way. So if this has one of the best lots in the neighborhood compared to the comps, you can simply select the 5-star, you know, so you can simply change the rating, and what it'll do is it'll update the data. Sorry, I believe my internet just cut off for a second. Let me just refresh this. So what it's going to do, it's going to update the data. Oh, yep, I think I got shut off my internet. 1 second, please. Sign back in. One moment, please. We'll see if I can get back on here. There we go. I apologize. Kick me out. So you can change the ratings down here and you know, be able to adjust accordingly based off the value that you know, the value based off the agent's input. So when you change those ratings, what it's going to do is going to adjust the value based off of your subjective input for that rating. I apologize. I think our internet service here is having some issues. All right. So on the ratings here, so you can adjust ratings. It will adjust the value for you. We also have seasonality in the mix. So on a seasonality basis, we know every MLS has its own seasonality curve. So on that seasonality curve, what it's doing, it's basing your ratings off the date that you've run this analysis. So today is July the 8th, so it's running this analysis based off today's date. But if you come to a listing appointment, you can show to them, if I go to my analytics tab, what it's presenting to me is that the seasonality adjustment is just a slight adjustment higher because today's date, July 8th, compared to the rest of the seasonal curve, is slightly above average, not much, because you have to keep in mind we only chose these dates. So April 7th to July 8th, from an analysis standpoint, we're at the high end of the season anyway with our closed comp. So there's not much room to go higher on this. So as an agent, you can change this date. So if I come down here, I can change the date. So if I wanted to, if I went on a listing appointment today and that seller doesn't want to list till, let's just make up a date, December 18th, I can simply go change it here, and now watch my analytics. So now it's saying you're getting an adjustment down of 6,380 because you're essentially going from the peak of the seasonal market to the date of middle of December is the bottom of the seasonal market. So what it's reflecting is that you actually have a lower value because of the seasonal trend there. So, and this is per MLS, you know, so every MLS will have its own seasonal trend on the analysis there. So not only do we look at the seasonal effect, and I'll just go back and change it to today's date, July 8th. So we also analyze for market conditions. So under market conditions, we're showing an adjustment higher. So that adjustment higher is reflecting the fact that we have 13 closed sales in just 3 months. So we're almost closing 4 a month, or a little over 4 a month, and we only have 3 for sale. So you basically have 1 month of inventory, which is a strong seller's market, and it reads the conditions right here for you. So we believe this is an appreciating market based off of this type of absorption. So we're giving it credit from the average house of $2,000, showing the house value would be higher by $2,000. We also made the property adjustment on the first page. We left it as average here, so we're not adjusting from that average value. If you made those adjustments, it would reflect right here under property adjustment. We also show here the estimated market value. This is the same as on the first page. So here's our value for an average house based off of this time of year on a seasonal basis plus this type of market conditions. So what we're doing is, here's your average value. We know the average sales price to list price is 97.58%. So you can list in this price range here and sell in this price range. So this is our suggested list price. So our suggested list price is list in this price range here to sell in this range. We specifically designed this to avoid those conversations with sellers who make up their own list price. They say, well, I want to list at $475,000. You can show them, well, that's above our suggested list price. And with the probability of sale, if I come down here, I can show, well, your probability of selling at that list price is very low, and it's going to take a long time just to find out you're probably not going to sell. So let's stay in a realistic list price range. So we're staying in a realistic list price range and giving ourselves a high probability of selling and in a limited number of days. So what this is doing is showing list price here, probability of sale right here. The days on market, so days on market, what we're trying to reflect here is that the days on market from when the house was priced correctly. So this is a big difference from what most CMAs and MLSs produce. Is they're producing an average days on market. Well, that average days on market, let's say a house is listed for 200 days and they make 4 price changes. And after that 4th price changes, they sell in 10 days. All we care about is the 10. We don't care that they were overpriced for 200 days. That's bad data. Why do we want to use data that shows, hey, at the wrong price, it takes 200 days to not sell? We want to know at the right price, how many days does it take to sell? So this neighborhood takes 8 days on average to sell once that house is the right list price. So that's a very important tool to use with your sellers. Again, here's our sales price to list price, and then price per square foot. So we are not, this is another big concept, is we are not averaging price per square foot together. Average price per square foot is the wrong way to analyze a house. What matters is at a specific square footage in this neighborhood, what is the average price? Because we know smaller houses will sell for more per square foot, larger houses will sell for less. So what's important is this curve is what's important, not an average price per square foot. So this house that's 1,850 square feet, what the analytics are showing, that house is $232 a square foot. If I come back to the chart and I want to analyze this house down here that's 1,403 square feet, I can simply come here, change it to 1,403, update my chart. When I update my chart, what it's going to do, it's going to, now we're analyzing this house down here. If I go to my analytics tab, now it's showing that house is 274 square foot. So there's a big difference, but it's still an average house. So using an average price per square foot is not the accurate analysis. It's using what is the average price at a specific square foot. We also have the map tab on here. So on the map tab, everything is as we saw before. You can see on here, you can scroll over any listing, you can go through the pictures, you can look at everything that way. We have the list tab here. So on the list tab, we have the actives, the pendings, and the closed sales. And you can see we were talking, and all the data's on here. You can look at pictures on here if you want. You can delete from this list as well. But when we look on here, look at the price per square foot. So 287, here's one at 197, 216, 266, 176. Average price per square foot doesn't matter because the price per square foot has a massive range. What matters is the price at a specific square footage. We also have the notes. So on the notes tab here, these are all scripts for agents. So you want to talk about seasonality adjustment with your client, here's your script or your discussion point with them. You want to talk about days on market, you can come down here. Here's your discussion. And the important thing is this is customized to this specific set of data. So when you have a conversation, it's not a general conversation about the market, it is specific to that, that data point, your comp that you're actually running. So we also come on here and look at the report. So if I look at the report tab, what it's doing is compiling everything in a PDF printout that you can use in a concise format here. However, now we have just released this week the presentation. So if you want to present in front of your clients, you can simply come here. And if I click on the presentation, you'll have a picture of your house on here. You'll do an analysis, for, you can put in your picture, your logo if you want. Here's your chart. So, and the chart's interactive. Again, you can scroll over everything. You can look at it. Chart's interactive. Here's your subject property down here. Here's your active, pendings, closed. So again, if you want to hide the actives and pendings, you can do that. You can populate them again. So everything's on here. It talks about the market conditions. Here's your estimated market value. Keep in mind we changed the square footage of the house. That's why it's a lower market value. And then here's your analytics overview. So you're talking about seasonality. Again, here's what it's calculating. Market conditions, property features, days on market. So everything is in a concise, easy to discuss format. Here's your probability of sale. So you can demonstrate to your client what happens if you list at a higher price, and the likelihood of a sale. So it's all, customized for you. And here's your details. So again, here's your scripts. You want to talk about seasonality adjustment? Here you go. So we're keeping everything to, an analytical level that you can have a discussion with your clients. Here's your map, and then finally your list format. Here's your actives, pendings, and closed sales. And it's white labeled, so that you can have all your information on here. So it just has all your personal, business information on there at the bottom, and it's customized for you. So that's the new, we just rolled out the presentation this week. So that's available to agents. You can still print, email. We have multi-language here. So if you have a Spanish-speaking client, you can simply change it to Spanish and email them this format. And everything, even the notes tab, everything is converted into Spanish. We have English, Spanish, and French. We have different currencies even over here. I'll change it back to English for a moment. And then as far as if you made a mistake on your search, it's as easy as going back and hitting modify search, and modify search will take you back to the search page. You change your search and move forward again to the chart. If you have any questions, we'll also be able to, there's an intercom button down here. So if you have any questions, you can come in here. You can message us directly on here. So it'll ask you, and as soon as you send a message, we'll get that in the system. There's also a help center here that you can go through, and any frequently asked questions are shown on here. I did see one question on the chat about an inverted curve. So inverted curve, so the way that works is an inverted curve, essentially what it's doing is this curve, instead of being the higher square footage is at a higher value, it's actually the curve is this way. And we send a warning if you have an inverted curve, because traditionally that's not a normal curve to look at. So it's kind of a warning that we pop up. And what it typically means is you either have a very low square footage property at a very high price that maybe it's maybe a waterfront property, or conversely, you might have a foreclosure that's a very large property. So it's wanting the curve to go the wrong direction. So inverted curve generally means you have an outlier or multiple outliers that are causing that curve to invert. But once you have enough data and the right set of data, it should be a curve like what you see here. So just an example of how that works. We also have now we've just put out a investment analysis tool. So the investment analysis tool, what that allows you to do is analyze a specific property on an investment basis. So that's another tool for you to use with your investor clients. And I'll show you, here's one that I had run previously. So here's the investment analysis for this property. So it goes through here and it'll show you, here's the return on the investment over time. So it's very easy to do. You just put in a specific set of criteria and it'll break down, this is breaking down cash flow, principal pay down, annual home value appreciation, tax benefit liability, and you have all these charts to pick from. So if I want to do annualized rate of return, it shows right here. So it shows you annualized rate of return over time. We have cash flow. Again, you have a 5-year, 10-year, 30-year window. Then we also have tax benefit liability that you can look at over time. So this shows everything and for your investors. So it's a great tool. It's very simple to put the input in there. And again, you have notes on here, so scripts for agents to talk about, principal pay down or home value appreciation. So it's all scripted out for agents here as well. And then we have an analytics tab to go along with that. That covers the years 1 through 5, 1 through 10, 1 through 30, and then all the assumptions that you put in. So most of these assumptions when you're running analysis are already input for you, but you can override and change anything on this list. So this is a tool we just rolled out just a few weeks ago, but anybody who has access to this tool also has access to the investment tool as well. Again, if you have any questions, you can go to pricing.apcdata.net, and this is the login page here. If you're an active user, you can simply come down to the intercom button down here and send us a message with any questions that you have. We are constantly working on innovating as agents. The agents that the developers of this product are actually agents themselves. So we're looking at it from an agent's perspective. We're always open to feedback. So please don't hesitate to give us any feedback, and just wanted to thank everybody for their time today. And feel free to reach out to us online. Oh, wait, there's one more question on here. So I got another question about multi-units. So multi-property units, we don't have, so the way that the MLSs work is that every MLS is different. So right now, this program is only basically for single units. So whether it's a condo, a townhome, a single family residential detached, that's what this program analyzes. And part of it is because the algorithm is completely different for a multi-unit. It doesn't mean you can't use the investment analysis chart for the multi-unit. You just have to assume overall what's the total rental income for it, what's the total expenses on it. So you can run that investment analysis, but you can't do the pricing analysis for multi-unit because the MLS data is a different set of data. You can't run vacant lots on this as well. That's in the works, but it's not operational at this point. So that I think that was the other question I saw online. So anyway, just wanted to thank everybody for their time today, and feel free to reach out to us, if you have any questions. Thanks again. Have a great day.